Hi, I'm Jason Fields, and this is my presentation, and it's my journey through the superintendency course for the entire period of June 6th up until today. So the first thing I want to talk about is the realities of a superintendent. Because I'm just a teacher right now, I don't really have any other experiences outside of that. So for me, this course was pretty challenging. And it was difficult for me to do some of the assignments because I couldn't see things from a different perspective. So for the assignments I did do, I had to do it in terms of a teacher's perspective. So that was the reality of this course. And one of the things that I was shaken up by was just like the case study. It changed how I thought. And for example, the Capital City School District, they were talking about, like the superintendent and the board members and how they had a tough time agreeing to certain things. And I just realized that it's very important for me, when I do become a superintendent, to try to, just build trust and to see eye to eye with the board members, because we may have different philosophies. Especially for me to come into a district where there's already a culture set, I pretty much have to go by that and try to work around it eventually as time goes on, and then once they build my trust, then maybe I could make some changes. So I realized, some of the challenges was to appease the board members, and that there's conflict of interest between the superintendent board members. And thing that reinforced on how I felt or believed and what I wanted to do is that as a superintendent, it's self-rewarding, just like a teacher. You're making a difference, you're impacting the community as well, and that's what I want to do. So that's why I want to become a superintendent, because I want to do things in a larger scale outside the classroom. So with that, there's school improvement, improving student achievement, making a difference in the community, and it's also satisfying and self-rewarding. The next thing I want to talk about is the organizational culture paper. So going back to what I said, how it was difficult for me to see myself in a different perspective, this assignment really changed my perspective because it made me realize, wow, there's just a lot of things that I don't know. And I still need to grow a lot. I still feel like I'm in the infant stage of learning, the different roles of a superintendent. So that's something that changed my perspective. Another thing also is it made me realize how much I didn't know about the business aspect of a school district. Because the superintendent is essentially like the CEO of a company. So that's something that made me realize that I have to grow and learn about. And then some of the challenges that I faced with this assignment was, I don't have the knowledge of a school administrator, so I'm not privy to some of the information that they may have. Also, as a central office worker, I haven't had any experience with that either, so it's very different type of lens to see from. And again, I don't know really much about what exactly a superintendent does on a daily basis, what goes on. And lastly, it's not having access to the school survey data. I had actually called Dr. Aiden about this assignment because I struggled with this. So he just told me, just go based off of your own personal experiences as a teacher and talk about that. The next thing I want to talk about is the superintendent program self-assessment, and that shook me up on how I felt about myself after completing the pre-assessment, and it made me realize again that there's many areas for growth and additional support that I need. Like if you go to the next slide, you'll notice this is my actual self-assessment reflection plan. And you can see that I've only had 6 different areas of relative strength, but then everything else was under areas for growth and additional support needed. So that made me realize, how much I need to learn and grow. Next, I want to talk about one of the guest speakers, Dr. Steve Flores from Round Rock ISD, and his personal story really inspired me. Just his upbringing over in San Angelo area, and how he started off as a paraprofessional, as I think a bus driver, and that really reinforced why I want to become a superintendent, what I believe, and how I feel and think about myself and my dreams of becoming a superintendent. So that just reinforced everything. Because my personal story is very similar to Dr. Steve Flores. You know, I have immigrant parents. I'm the first one, you know, first American born. I mean, I do have an older sister, and she's been a big inspiration too. But I just, you know, growing up, I've always wanted to make changes within my community. So everything now is like coming full circle as I get older. So ultimately, I would like to go back to San Antonio, maybe Northeast ISD, because that's where I graduated and where I lived my entire life. So I just want to improve the communities around that area. Next, it's learning from classmates. Because again, you know, there's only a few teachers in the class, and everyone else, you know, is in school leadership roles. So I was able to learn a lot from other classmates, just from the discussions and just questions I asked other students about, and just the process and the procedures of hiring and finding administrative jobs, and exactly what the process is to become a superintendent. So, you know, there's several classmates like Cade helped me out, Bobby helped me out. They showed me some websites I can go to. And I also realized from the class discussions that there's a lot of differences between the small and large school districts. So, you know, everyone has a different story and perspective of their role. And then lastly, ethical dilemmas. Going back to yesterday about the 10%, you know, it's tough. It all depends on the situation. For example, Bobby talked about how there's a student who is supporting his family and has to drive to work and doesn't have insurance and whatnot. For most of us, we would think that's unethical or illegal, but for that student, you know, he has his own personal reasons, and for us, you know, for me, it's hard to judge that, you know. So that's just one of the examples. But that's pretty much everything that I wanted to talk about, and these were just some of the few points that really struck me throughout the course. So thank you, everyone.